absence, other than from Asad Mushtaq, who is being replaced by Roger Kershaw for tonight's meeting. We'll move to declarations and the exec director from CLLF, who is joining online, Bev Hendricks. We'll move to declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any? No? Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting, are they agreed? Thank you. So we'll move to item 4, which is Article 4 directions. Councillor Judge.
Leader, we're all aware that one of our key objectives is to improve the quality of housing by the rented sector. And we all know that if housing is badly designed, badly built, it can cause problems not only for future residents, but for the neighbours of that housing. And it's really important we look at adequate room sizes, look at properly planned and designed community spaces, we look at noise insulation, we look at the way waste is presented by residents. We've already withdrawn permitted development rights. Thank you. And we also believe that our use of selective licensing and additional licensing has been very successful. And it's been implemented in 4 wards for selective licensing, 7 wards for additional licensing. It's led to inspections of all the properties that landlords have applied for. And those inspections have revealed in a number of cases, hundreds of cases, need for improvement of those properties. And we have issued improvement notices in respect to those properties. And so far, and we will be ensuring compliance, so far hundreds have been improved. And that makes a real difference for the lives of residents in Merton. So we are intending to expand selective licensing and additional licensing across the borough based on the evidence. And this report also introduces a timetable to introduce selective and additional licensing. And implicitly, that's a timetable to gather the evidence. And we can't introduce it except on the merits in each individual neighbourhood. So we look at the evidence for each neighbourhood, and we'll see if that is justified. And this report is willing the resources for that. And we're also looking at the withdrawal of permitted development rights in respect of 3 categories of conversion, which can affect the quality of our high streets and our town centres and our commercial areas. Housing is really important. Very often when you change commercial buildings, they're not done very well with permitted development rights, and they result in poor quality housing. But they can also lead to a diminution in the properties that can be used by businesses, by leisure operators in our town centres, for instance. And so we will be looking not at the immediate withdrawal of permitted development rights, but consulting on the withdrawal over a period of time for town centres and neighbourhood parades, for protected industrial areas, and for scattered employment sites. Housing is really important. So is future business and employment opportunities in the borough, and we need a good balance of the buildings that are available for those purposes. And this report recommendation also delegates authority to the executive director, Jeremy, to make all the arrangements to include public consultation for the making of the Article 4 directions, selective and additional licensing to agree the final extent of the areas to which these will apply, including, if appropriate, changes in terms of enforcement on individual properties which are subject to the immediate Article 4 direction. So that, I think, summarises the measure. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Judge. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments? Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Leader. It's not a question so much as a comment. I would like to say thank you to my friend and colleague for bringing forward this proposal, because the residents of Ravensbury Ward I know will really welcome it. They have seen a plague of properties being converted to HMOs with all the associated problems that you've described, and so on their behalf I'd like to thank you.
Well, I'm very grateful for that comment from my colleague Peter. I'd also like to thank the officers who have worked very hard to bring this report to Cabinet at relatively short notice, over a period, I think, of about 1.5 months. I think we've been working on this, and it's included looking at, for instance, at the legal issues that we face, and whether there is a proper balance in the arrangements we're planning to introduce, and we think there is such a balance.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
I'd like to thank my colleague, the Cabinet Member for Housing, for the excellent work he and the officers doing in this area. The question I have is, how will stronger rules on HMOs protect private renters and the interests of local communities?
Well, both these, thank you, Councillor Kenny, for that question. Both these groups are very important. In terms of private renters, it's to prevent inadequate conversions that will affect the well-being, potentially the health of those who are going to be living in those properties. So it's important it's done well. But of course, as you are aware, poorly constructed and designed HMOs can affect neighbours' health and well-being as well. And it's really important that such conversions are well designed and have been approved by planning officers looking at all the relevant criteria. Thank you.
Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you to the executive officer and also to the cabinet member for this very extensive report, which is so important. And obviously Article 4 sets out the timetable for extending HMOs, which is very important for borough-wide. And I would like to ask the cabinet member, how will this approach be considered for landlord licensing? Because we know how important this is.
Well, we have to, thank you, Councillor McCall, we have to look at the evidence, ward by ward. And that is the past evidence, and it's the evidence that's going to be gathered in the months to come to see that the introduction of selective licensing and additional licensing where it doesn't already exist is justified, and we must go through that exercise, and the evidence will be very important in that respect. But thank you.
Councillor Neveson.
Well, thank you very much. There's a great deal of political interest in stronger rules on HMOs. And I know the Conservatives locally have come out with a petition on this around the same time we published this paper, and a Liberal Democrat candidate in Cannon Hill has opposed it. What would your message be to these parties?
Well, I have had the opportunity to speak to Councillor McLean, and I'm grateful for the support of the Conservatives for this measure that we are introducing. They are right to support it because, as I've described, it can affect future residents in their wards and current residents if there are poor HMOs. I am somewhat flummoxed that the Liberal Democrats, or a Liberal Democrat in Cannon Hill, has decided to oppose it. I can't understand what the possible reasons for that would be. Thank you for the question.
Real, I see no. Oh, Councillor Allen Brittis.
I think we're agreed, Councillor Ambritis, that the vitality of our commercial centres, and certainly you with your background representing business, I know it's very close to your heart, the business vitality of our commercial centres is very important. It's important so that residents can get the benefit of using those commercial centres. It's important in terms of future employment, many of which those jobs will be for future residents. So we have to maintain the vitality of our town centres, and we can't afford to allow them simply to become dormitory areas. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, colleagues. Some really important questions there. As there's no further speakers, we're being asked to agree recommendations A, B, C, D and E. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move to the next item now, which is the Climate Delivery Plan Year 6. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you very much, Leader. So, colleagues, all those who've been around for some time will remember that we adopted our climate strategy back in 2020 and set ourselves ambitious targets for both ourselves as a council and for our borough for reaching net zero. And as part of that, we committed to give an annual update each year on the actions that we're taking to meet this and to monitor the progress. So this paper that you have before you is the Climate Delivery Plan for Year 6, sets out those areas of progress and the key priorities for the coming year across 8 work streams. There's quite a detailed report there, but I hope you've also seen in Appendix A, I think it is the public facing summary with some nice graphics, which I hope that colleagues here and residents will find useful. There is a lot here, so I won't go through it all, but I wanted to highlight some of the new and continued activity that our very skilled climate team have been undertaking in the past year. And I'd like to give a huge thanks to Caroline and Jeremy and the officers that work with them on this. But so some of the highlights recently includes the launch of Merton's Business Energy Support Scheme, Energy Efficiency Support Scheme. So this provides energy audits and match funding to businesses looking to make their premises more energy efficient. So just following on from the ongoing work to support homeowners to access competitively priced loans to make improvements, we're now supporting businesses as well. We've awarded more funding through our Community Climate Action Fund, which we'll be talking about later in the agenda as well. We, as you know, all the work on the new social homes is in line with Passive House principles, and we broke the ground on the first of those. We're midway through planting 1,000 additional street trees, which will both help with climate adaptation as well as tackling climate emissions themselves. Working with the Department for Education, we're installing sustainable urban drainage planters at schools right across the borough. So we've got 7, so we've got 10 right across the borough now, 7 this year, 9 have been done before, so 16 in total. And we've been progressing things like the decarbonisation of our heating system here in the Civic Centre. Lots of other work going on. As I say, I won't go through, but what's looking forward over the next year, we've got some really important work done around our borough energy plan, and we've commissioned new consultants to work with us on that. We'll be with colleagues implementing the new electric vehicle charging infrastructure work and putting even more sustainable urban drainage systems across the borough and moving forward with that decarbonisation of our heating system and of our procured services. So what you'll see from everything I've just said, and that's just a snapshot of it, is this is not my portfolio. This is something that sits right across the council. Colleagues all around the table have an important role to play in the work that we're doing to tackle emissions. And I'm very happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Councillor Neveson.
Thank you very much. Could you update us on the progress the council has made on delivering the climate delivery plan from year 5?
Thank you. Yeah, so there's lots of progress in terms of engagement and activity, and I've just given some of those examples. But you know what we're trying to do here is both reduce our own and the borough emissions, and that output is what matters. There is a bit of a lag in the data here, so we don't have it kind of up to 2025, but we have seen the total borough emissions fall from 888 kilotons of CO2 in 2017 down to 651 in 2023. And as a council, we got more recent, more accurate data. So we've gone down from 11.8 kilotons of CO2 down to 9.8 in 2024. So we have been seeing actual reductions.
Councillor Cooper-Marbia.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer, for your report. Can you explain how the climate delivery plan will help Merton maintain its position as one of the best rated councils nationally for climate action?
Thank you very much. We should all be really, really proud that the Climate Emergency UK, who run the Climate Action Scorecard, put us as one of the top 10 boroughs in the whole country for our climate activity. And the work that we've outlined in this report are some of the things that have been highlighted by them as things that have made us particular top performers. So, for example, our planning policies and how we collaborate and engage with the communities are two things that have been identified by independent external observers as areas of best practice.
There's no further indications. I just want to say that it's a really strong report on such an important issue, and to be recognised as one of the top performing councils, as you rightly say, Councillor Stringer, we should all take pride in that work, but not stop and bask in the glory. There's still more work to be done, but a strong record of delivery. So thanks to you for leading on this item, but also for all of the officers that are involved in this important work. So turning to the recommendations, we're being asked to agree recommendations A and B. Are they agreed? Thank you. So we'll move on to item 6, which is Civic Pride investing in neighbourhoods and community climate action funds 2025 bid approvals. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you. This is me again. It links nicely on from the last paper. Because Leader, this paper outlines how we're hoping for your approval to spend just over £700,000 on projects that develop civic pride in our area and projects that help to tackle that climate crisis through community action. And this is the third year that we've run these funding rounds together, and we've really found this helps to maximise both the quality and the quantity of bids, making it really easy for people to apply, and the team did a great job at promoting it. So the two funds are the Civic Pride Investing in Neighbourhoods Fund, which is how we distribute the 15% of the Community Infrastructure Levy, the CIL, which is a tax on development that we receive when development happens in our borough. And then the second fund is the Community Climate Action Fund, which uses money that we've set aside to put into community work to reduce emissions. So we choose to distribute this CIL levy through the Civic Pride Fund, opening up applications to all applications that meet the statutory CIL requirements, whilst helping fulfil our borough ambitions around the borough sport, building a sustainable future and nurturing civic pride. That pot has always historically funded some environmentally focused projects, but we've added in the Community Climate Action Fund a few years ago, allowing us to really target those projects that are engaging the community and taking actions to tackle climate change. At this point, I'd really like to thank all the applicants who took their time to submit a bid, and a huge thank you to the many officers from across the council who are involved in assessing and supporting the bids. We did have a very high number of really good quality applications. And given that the Civic Pride Investing in Neighbourhoods Fund is dependent on the exact amount of community infrastructure levy received in the exact year linked to the developments undertaken, that pot happened to be smaller this year than in previous years. So while I'm really proud of the projects that we're supporting, I do want to highlight that some really promising ideas weren't able to be funded through this pot this year, and we would love to continue to work with some of them to find other sources of funding where possible. But through careful assessment and some adjustments, we were able to fund 21 projects. You can see the list of successful projects in section 5.16 onwards and in the first appendix. I won't name them all, but through the Civic Pride Fund, it's particularly great to see supporting things like new community cafes, like the proposed Lavender Cafe at South Mitcham Community Centre, and a new outdoor gym at Haydens Road Rec, which helps with our borough sports ambitions. And in the Tackling Climate Crisis, we're funding some really exciting projects like the Merton Muslim Women's Green Hub and Lantern Church's Faith and Arts project. So again, thank you to everyone who applied and the team who reviewed, and I look forward to seeing all these projects come to life over the coming months.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Alan Brittas.
Yeah. This excellent report. So I know you can't go into each and every different itemized bid, but can you update us on the kinds of bids that have been successful in this funding round?
Thank you. I'm very happy to just dive into detail and maybe highlighting a couple of the projects and what they'll do to give you a flavour. So we're going to be funding Little Ark, a lovely local community project with their social meetup, social spelled S-E-W, because it's all about sewing. And these will fund 40 workshops at Borden Park Baptist Church, teaching people new skills, sewing skills. So that's got community outcomes and well-being outcomes, but it's also about upcycling textile waste and then making sure that those textiles that otherwise would have been thrown away are being turned into something new, and they'll be distributed to local schools and voluntary sector. And for example, we're going to be funding the Climate Resilience Tour, which is a partnership between lots of different organisations, the May Project Gardens, Merton Connected, BAME Voice and others, building climate action awareness in our underrepresented communities, running nature-based workshops across 6 community hubs. So that's on top of all the usual types of things that we fund, like putting gyms in parks and harvesting of water. So it's a really lovely range of ideas that we're able to support.
Councillor Judge.
Thank you. So actually, no, we're putting the residents at the heart of everything that we do, and we bore their priorities in mind with all these assessments, like what will really deliver value and improvements to our local residents. And many of these projects are also led by local residents, and so it's delightful to be able to support those people who volunteer in their local communities and invest in their ideas. So for example, we're supporting the Merton Garden Streets project through this fund, which supports residents right across the borough to who are adding greenery and wildlife in their streets. And we're helping, for example, St Mark's Church and Mitcham to open up their land to the community. So this is about investing in things that will really benefit local residents right across Merton. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, colleagues. We'll move to the recommendations. We're being asked to agree recommendations A, B, C, and D. Are they agreed? Thank you. Okay, now we turn to the proposal for a half marathon for Merton as part of the Borough Sport Events Programme update. And I will briefly introduce the report and then hand over to Polly Chook to cover a bit more off the ground. But just to start off by saying that this is a really exciting opportunity to work with the Great Run Company to stage a half marathon in London's Borough Sport right here in Merton in spring 2027. And I think what's clear from the report is that this is not just about the event itself, which is a half marathon that many people hopefully will participate in, but it chimes nicely into what we're trying to achieve in terms of London's Borough of Sport. It's so much more than creating the next generation of elite athletes. We can see from the paper the difference it can make to our local business economy and the wider economic impacts that could benefit from a half marathon being in Merton, but also the health impacts that it can have on well-being, but also in terms of placemaking and putting Merton on the map. But most importantly, that wider community benefit that we can see in terms of the amount of money and the opportunity that can present for local charities to really benefit from this mass participation sport being hosted in the borough. And they're just a few of the areas that I'd like to cover, and I'll hand over to Polly for further information.
Thank you very much, Leader. Sorry, that feels a little bit close. That's better. So you can see the report lays out the benefits, as the Leader said, of an event like this. When we first brought this proposal to the Leader, one of the first things he asked for was us to get an independent economic impact study commissioned, which we did, and I think that study really clearly shows how mass participation sport can bring huge economic benefit. We know from Wimbledon Fortnight how much extra business sport can bring to the borough, but actually this really gives us a chance to do something that benefits the whole borough rather than just one area. What has been really clear as well since the cabinet papers were published, and this went into the public domain a week ago, is how this has been welcomed by the sector, and particularly people have said, you know, that South London doesn't have a flagship running event yet. So half marathons and mass participation running is growing in popularity across the capital, but South London is really lacking a flagship event, and this really does have the potential to become that. We're really pleased to be partnering with the Great Run Company, who are responsible for the biggest half marathon in the world, which is the Great North Run. They have the red arrows at the Great North Run. I don't know if we're going to get the red arrows. That would be good, but you know, clearly they've got a very good track record, which is why we've chosen to enter into this collaboration agreement with them. This is a hugely complex project. It will benefit the whole borough, but it will need sort of cooperation and input from the whole organisation. And so we have put together a project governance structure which allows us to bring in expertise from all across Merton, and the first things is working with our colleagues in transport around the complexities of road closures and all of that kind of thing. But there'll be logistical input from all across the council. It's a huge opportunity to engage schools with a schools challenge, to get children from across the borough running this race, not 13 miles, but a smaller schools challenge. But we're also looking at options to create an inclusive event, including potentially a 10k option and also a 5k in Morden Park as well, so that people who don't fancy doing the whole thing will have a chance to take part. So the nature of our collaboration with the Great Run Company means that both organisations will be putting a lot into making this a success. And I think, what we set up now in terms of the way we report into to you as members on the, the sort of commercial success and the logistical the logistical operations of this throughout the period. And we've agreed a clear kind of governance structure with the leader on how we can make sure that we're keeping on top of that and that we're making the right decisions as we go through this.
Thank you, Polly. Opening up the floor for questions. Councillor Judge.
Thank you, leaders. It seems a very positive initiative. Polly, you did touch on the governance arrangements, because the downside risk is that there'll be an insufficient sign up. May I ask you, leader, from your perspective, what the governance arrangements are to counteract that risk?
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying that it's not an insignificant sum of investment that the council is putting in to reap those wider benefits that have been outlined in the report. And because we are such a financially well-run authority, it is important that there is that clear sight of governance, and those checks of balances are built into any system. And so having the right level of assurance is absolutely critical. And that's why the final decision on proceeding with the event will be delegated to the executive director in consultation with the cabinet member for sport, but also for finance as well. And hopefully that will provide the right reassurance if there are challenges in terms of sign up for what I believe will be a hugely successful event. Polly, I don't know if there was anything you'd like to add.
So we're intending to, because obviously we've announced it. What we haven't done is launched it to the market yet. So that will be something that will happen within the next month, and we will be very, very closely monitoring that sales data in consultation with our partners at Great Run Company, who have a very good understanding of the kind of the peaks and troughs of this kind of market, and when we can expect to be selling places and how quickly we can expect that to happen, so that we can take a kind of clear-sighted decision before anybody starts to outlay major capital on this about whether or not we feel that it's successful enough to proceed. But the response we have had, just the public response we've had since the launch, does make us feel confident about that.
Thank you. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting. And my question again really isn't to Caroline, apologies, directly to the Cabinet Member for Finance, because as a Cabinet Member responsible for the local economy, I see huge potential benefits here for supporting our local businesses. And I just wondered if the Cabinet Member for Finance had thoughts on that as well.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Stringer. So I've been in discussions with Polly and with the leader about the economic benefits of the half marathon, and there are economic benefits that will come to Merton. It's a huge boost to the local economy, increasing visitor numbers, enhances our reputation, enhances the brand. Merton, where 8,000 small businesses operate, brings visitors who also are customers. And in terms of hard numbers, we anticipate 21 new jobs and a spend of about £1 million by those visitors and by people enjoying this half marathon.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper-Marbia.
Thank you, Leader. Marathon is perfect. Merton is perfect for a marathon because we have wonderful parks and open spaces here in Merton. And so I'm really delighted that we have the half marathon coming. It will be great for cyclists and cycling enthusiasts. It will be great for our residents, and it will also boost our economy, as Councillor String and Bridges have just said. But the half marathon will also strengthen our position and take Merton further in our ambition to become Merton's first borough sport, London's first borough sport. And so it will also inspire many people to take up cycling or to take up other sports that they find enjoyable. So I think it will be able to inspire many people to take up sports, as I said. So I'd just like to thank our officers, even though I know there's still much more work to be done, but to just thank you all, Polly, and your officers for all the work that have gone into this so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper-Marbia. Just for clarity, it's a running marathon, but I do think that there will be wider impacts in terms of promotion and influencing other sports, as you outlined. So, colleagues, I don't see any further speakers, but we're being asked to agree recommendations A, B, and C. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Brilliant, thank you. So we'll now move to agenda item 8. And just to note to Cabinet colleagues, there is an exempt agenda item in relation to this around the commercial sensitivities. If you do wish to draw on any information from that exempt report, please do announce before you do so, just in case we need to go to a private session. But over to you, Councillor Alan Brittas.
Thank you, Lyndon. Before I begin my quartet of agenda items, I'd like to sing the praises of someone who I will be calling on to help me with these 4 items. That's Roger Kershaw. Just to say a huge thank you. I understand this is your last Cabinet meeting. You've been instrumental in helping us with the sale of Chas, with the investment of the Chas money in a very positive way, allowing me to do an article that refers to us lending to the likes of Manchester and Leeds. You've been brilliant with regard to our pension fund, which is now valued at over £1 billion, giving £26 million a year to our residents, and one of the most prized pension funds and well run, and extending out into ESG and ethical lending. So a huge thank you there. And now over to you on all these items. No, so I will introduce each one, but over to you on the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, which we have to sign so we can use Microsoft products. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Councillor. Yes, this is hopefully a fairly straightforward process. We need to agree the procurement process for the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement using the Crown Commercial Services framework, and I'm asking Cabinet to agree to the contract, to award the contract to the winning supplier following the outcome of that process. As members will know, the Council uses Microsoft products to provide its digital infrastructure. we're coming up to the end of our 3-year agreement. Microsoft insists that this is done through third-party suppliers. That we have got the option to extend the contract by another year, but we do not wish to do that because we are expecting a price hike come into effect from May 26, which makes our need to agree another 3-year deal more compelling to avoid those cost hikes. There's an awful lot of detail in the report and the subsequent appendices, but I think it's a fairly straightforward request, so I shall leave it there for this one.
Thank you very much, Roger. And as Stephen has started with his thanks, I would like to echo all of the words that Councillor Alan-Brittas has bestowed upon you, but also to say a huge thank you from me personally. You've been incredible since I've been leader of the council, and your knowledge of the finances in Merton is second to none, but also your passion for Merton, not just as a council but as a borough and as a place, shows through in everything that you do, Roger. And it isn't often a word associated with accountants or people in finance, but it is true. Your passion does shine through in all of your work, and you know, many of us around this table will know the tremendous amount of work that you do put in, but the wider benefit that you've contributed to the hundreds of thousands of people's lives within this borough, ensuring that our finances are in a really strong position, and some might say unparalleled position to other local authorities, I think is a huge achievement. And you know, we're just really thankful for all of the work and dedication that you've given to Merton.
Thank you for those kind words. I might not leave now.
You'd be very welcome to stay. Turning back to the report, I'm just wondering if there are any comments or questions at Councillor Kwesa.
Thank you very much, Leader. And I'll also like to add my voice to your words and the words of my cabinet colleagues. I remember the first meeting I went in with Roger, which was the financial monitoring task group, and how helpful you were in taking us through the budget, and it made it a much more welcoming task group than I previously thought, and so thank you very much for that. And please excuse the technical question, but which framework agreement are we using to renew the Microsoft Enterprise agreement for the next 3 years?
It's the Crown Commercial Services. It's called the TEPAS2. Technical term, I know. Not so familiar with it myself, but yeah, that's the framework we'll be using. It's the appropriate framework for us to be able to renew these licenses, and so we are happy to go along with that particular mechanism.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and also thank you, Roger. I've known you for many years as a long-standing councillor in the London Borough of Merton, and your loyalty is next to none. Can I just ask you to confirm the VAT element of the 3-year contract?
Just looking for it now. I can't see that at the moment. Just have a look in the financials. Yeah. There is, isn't there? It might be in the exempt papers. That's why I'm struggling to find it. Yeah, I'm happy to provide that answer outside this meeting if that's okay. I think that'd be the best way to go forward.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Roger. So we're being asked to colleagues to agree recommendations A and B. Are they agreed? Agreed. Okay, so we'll move to the next item, which is fees and charges. Councillor Alan-Brittas.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this is us wanting to give due regard to our public sector equality duty under the Equalities Act 2010, on which I worked with Trevor Phillips when I was an Equality and Human Rights Commissioner. And for completeness and transparency, we are today publishing the overarching EIAs. Everyone's got them. We've all seen them. We pay huge attention to them. We've discussed the fees and charges report in a previous meeting, but we now have, for transparency and completeness, published the overarching EIAs. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, would you like to comment on this? No? Any questions? Councillor Cooper-Marbia.
Thank you, Councillor Allen-Brittis. Quick question. Can you outline the update you gave to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the overall EIA for the fees and charges papers passed in this at a December cabinet? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper-Marbia. Exactly what I've just said for consistency. Both last December's cabinet meeting and today, we are giving due regard for completeness and transparency to our equalities duty, and we today published the overarching EIAs. That's exactly what I said with regard to our duty and the importance we adhere to it. But today, for completeness' sake, we're publishing the overarching EIAs. Thank you.
Okay, there's no further indications. So Cabinet, we're being asked to agree recommendations A and B. Are they agreed? Thank you. So we'll move to item 10, which is the budget 26 to 27, MTFS 26 to 2030. Councillor Allen-Brittis.
Thank you, Leader. So I wanted to thank Assad, who sadly is not here. It's half term. I'm sure his kids are enjoying his presence, and to thank Roger and all the team that's taken us to this place where we're heading towards a balanced budget on February the 25th, where we have gone public on a freeze to the Merton element of the council tax, and where we are taking the 2% precept for adult social care. That's us allocating care and attention to people's concerns about cost of living, and at one and the same time us allocating resources to those least able to look after themselves, to the elderly, the vulnerable, by making sure we take the precept of 2% for adult social care. I wanted to thank John Morgan, my co-ward councillor, Peter McCabe, for all the work they're doing. And so I think we're in a good place, and I'd like to hand over to Roger Kershaw now.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm pleased to present this main report with the addendum. As you know, it was produced against a backdrop of some uncertainty, given the lateness of the financial settlement and the complexity within it, where a lot of the specific grants were aggregated into a block revenue support grant, which always makes it very hard to sort of track how those specific grants have gone. But we've managed to produce a balanced budget, which is the requirement that we have for the following year, for next year. It's against a record amount of savings that we've put forward for members of some, if you take previous year's savings that are accruing into this next year, 26-27, some £13.1 million. That's the highest level of savings we've taken for many a year. In fact, the last time we took something of that ilk was around 2021, when we brought 11 million savings through. So that was a very positive approach, and I thank executive director colleagues for the hard work they put in, together with the finance team, in producing those savings that you have agreed. Some extra ones that have come tonight, simply because of the lateness of the settlement and the need to balance the budget. fairly late in the day from that point of view. But that's not uncommon, I'm afraid, with the way that the settlements go. But pleased to have been able to do that. We put in some extra contingencies, which has helped with the balancing of the budget, particularly with the council tax element, and we've been able to fund some growth of some 5 million for all important services, particularly around housing, which is a major pressure for us from that point of view. With the formula funding review that came about has impacted, and we're sort of classed as a low need, high resources council. I think it's a reflection of how well we've managed ourselves in many ways. The final settlement has produced some small amount of extra funding for us, some £236,000, always welcome, which has helped the budget in some small way. And of course, we've had some fairly good news on the special educational needs grant, he said modestly, because it has a major impact for Merton, and Merton will hopefully benefit from this, because we've been prudent enough to set aside the money each year for the dedicated schools grant deficit. So we've got an accumulated deficit of some significant proportion, and the proposal is that will be recompensed in some way. Details yet to be still worked through from central government sometime in the autumn. We'll get the proposal is we'll get about 90%. That'll be subject to a forensic audit of what we've been charging so far, so there's some uncertainty there. And there's also the issues of the funding that we have to make up ourselves. But reading the detail, we are likely to also receive the money we had to put in through the safety valve agreement, which was some 30 million. So all in all, very, very, very good news from that point of view, but the devil will be in the detail. And of course, we're waiting for plans to see how the funding will go forward, how the responsibility will go forward from the end of this statutory override, which will be in March 28. And it'll be interesting, and we await plans from central government on how that burden will be taken on going forward. I'm also pleased to append to the addendum report the People 2 report that we commissioned, which has given us some very positive assurance. Whereas, like, we're in a strong financially robust position, to quote, and excellent stewardship. There's other phrases I've picked up from what they've said. So again, a very pleasing indictment to the strong financial management that you've presided over in your time here. Lots of detail in the report. Happy to take questions, but I think I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, are there any questions? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the Cabinet Member, Councillor Alan Brittas, and to all officers involved in creating this report. But could I also add my personal thanks to you, Roger, for all your input over the years into the London Borough of Merton and the impact you've had on the residents of Merton, which is very much appreciated. And you would expect a question on this. Freezing the main element of the council tax will go a long way in helping families across Merton with the cost of living by keeping bills low. Can you explain how the freeze on the main element of council tax has been achievable?
Well, there's a number of things I'd cite there. Just in a more general term, I think it's worth recognising that the Merton Council is very strong financially run. Its governance is strong. There are a number of indicators that demonstrate that. There's we've included in the report, actually, the main report at paragraph 10.6, the SIPFA Financial Resilience Index, which demonstrates quite clearly that for most of those indicators, in terms of levels of reserves and interest payable to net revenue expenditure, gross external debt, those sorts of things, we are one of the lowest risk councils around, which gives you an indication of how financially robust we are from that point of view. Another area I would cite is the number of savings we've been able to bring forward this year. I said at the outset some 13 million, which has given us some leeway within the report to be able to afford to freeze main council tax this time. I think you're also benefiting from the Chas legacy, which has been mentioned tonight. There's 186 million that I've been happily investing for you for some time now. And in fact, you're probably better off by some 12 to 14 million a year on those numbers alone through the early repayment of debt we were able to achieve with that money, and then the investment in long-term government gilts, some of which are running about 4.5%, that will run out to 2048, and you'll have that interest every year for that period, and we all know that interest rates are coming down, so that gives you extra capacity within the budget. I'd also the fact that we are very good at delivering savings. You'll see from the monitoring report that's coming up that for 26 savings, we've already delivered some 97% of them. So we've got a very strong track record at delivering savings through judicial use of contingencies, and those extra savings we've been able to make. I've already mentioned at a record level, we've been able to afford to freeze council tax this time.
Roger. Councillor McCabe.
Well, I too would like to add my word of thanks to Roger. And I think I'll put it as simply as this: in the 40 years that I have been on the council, you have been one of the finest officers I have worked with. My question is not to you, it's to my ward colleague and my friend, the Cabinet Member for Finance. And it is that only 2 of the proposed savings didn't go through 2 rounds of budget scrutiny that we've had. Can you explain why this was, and what opportunities members will have to scrutinise these savings?
Thank you to my co-ward councillor colleague and cabinet colleague. Roger alluded to the reasons. So lateness of the settlements from Whitehall and Westminster. No qualms about that. Happens every year. One of the other reasons is the continuing size of the budget gap, and we need to set a balanced budget. And quite simply, in terms of scrutinising all savings, the ultimate theatre chamber is the full council meeting. Everyone will have a chance there to scrutinise everything, including these 2 savings.
Councillor Kwesa.
Can I just ask, how will the new growth enhance our offer to residents? Can I get some more clarity on that, please?
I think I can, and if Roger wants to come in on that, but in terms of the growth items that Roger alluded to, so we should be able to, in investing and growth items of 4 million plus in housing, address temporary accommodation, increasing ability to provide temporary accommodation to our residents in terms of safety of the council as an entity, resilience against any cyber attack, in terms of our residents and their safety on our streets. We're employing more wardens to make this place an even safer place. And in terms of cleanliness and pride in the place, we're allocating resources to graffiti removal, and also in terms of greenness, to allocating some growth to the maintenance of our parks and green and open spaces. Thank you.
Councillor Stringer.
Thank you. And I want to ask about the People 2 report, which I think is a lovely leaving present for you, Roger, and a good kind of testament to all of your hard work. But Councillor Lambritos, I wonder if you could outline a bit more about the main findings for that People 2 report that assessed our financial health. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got some notes here. Wave report, it says. So here's the report. I'm waving it. So yes, the critical success factors in the report, page 16 of 21 pages, strategic financial stewardship with thanks to officers like Roger, capital strategy and Chas legacy deployed for impact, again with thanks to Roger and many others, including our chief executive, in terms of that stupendous sale. This was rather like IPOs and the city. It was important that word did not get out, and the company that bought it off us were supremely pleased with the way in which we all acted. And so, having received the money, we have deployed it with impact. And a lot of local authorities do have business and the council-owned businesses. But if you look at a number of them over the years, have not deployed or used the funds as wisely as we have and we are doing. And finally, a performance culture, they say, and this is alluding to my colleagues, Councillor Kawisa and Kenny, anchored in prevention and early intervention, ensuring high quality service for our children and for our elderly residents. Prevention and early intervention. Unusual for financial people to pick on that, and they are spot on. This is what we're very good at, getting in there early and preventing things happening. A good report. Thank the leader for commissioning it.
The judge.
Thank you very much, Roger, for all your services to the borough. People often say that politics makes no difference to their lives. I don't think they can say that in Merton. We are a political organisation. We respond to people's needs and their aspirations. And I think you're going out on a high. Now, I don't say it's all down to you, Roger, because I think we could all collectively share the fact that we are one of the best run boroughs in the country. But you've made a very significant contribution to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Judge. I don't see any further indications, and I think that everybody in this room and outside of this room should take immense pride in the work that's gone into this budget. It's not just a budget that's been made over 12 months. It's a combination of years of hard work, of repairing some of the challenges that have been handed down to local government, whether that's through austerity and the coalition years. We've been critical in putting our focus on what matters to residents, and I think that council tax freeze as the main element is as symbolic and will be greatly received by residents as much as our first cost of living budget, where we offered a council tax rebate. This budget is something we should be proud of. The financial resilience and foundations that sit beneath this, as outlined in the People 2 report, we should take huge credit for. Whilst neighbouring authorities are paying tens of millions of pounds a year in servicing their debt, we spent the time paying down our debt so that money can be used for frontline services. This is a budget that isn't closing libraries, that isn't closing adult day centres, that isn't selling council property for loans. We are a serious organisation that has put financial stability and security at the heart of everything we do, whilst also delivering on priorities of residents, whether that's street cleanliness, whether that's safety, or whether it is building the first homes in a generation. And I commend this budget report and all of the hard work that's gone into this. It hasn't been easy. We've had to take difficult decisions, but the right decisions. And we've come to a place where we are able to go out to residents knowing that the freeze that we've proposed is built on strong financial foundations. So colleagues, we're being asked to agree recommendations A to J, and of course this goes to full council after 2 rounds of scrutiny. Do we agree those recommendations? Brilliant, thank you. So we now move to the next item, which is Councillor Alan Brittis again, period 9 financial monitoring report.
this is a very detailed report. There's an improvement since period 8 of 1.141 million. That's really good. And I'll just hand over to Roger, make sure he earns his keep.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, pleased to report on period 9. The net forecast overspend at this stage is some £780,000, significantly down on period 8, and it's following a trajectory that I'm confident should get us to at least delivering our budget on target from that point of view towards the end of the year. Certainly with all the good efforts that all of the directorates and executive directors have put in with regards to the mitigations and those extra mitigation targets that we pulled together after period 6 monitoring report. So there's still some challenges within the budget figures, and they are the usual 3 areas, if you like. One is housing, which is again very common to most councils with regards to temporary accommodation, and Merton is not unique in that situation. There's the children's placements areas, which is again a sort of a national pressure from that point of view. But I would say the third financial worry that I've always carried with me is the dedicated schools grant deficit, and with the very welcome news from central government with the settlement, that might just with a fair wind, and once we get to grips with the detail, prove to be one financial worry that we won't have to take forward into the next financial year. So all of which is good news from that point of view. I'm going to repeat again the evidence, if you like, of strong financial control that we have in this council, given the delivery of savings for 25-26, 97%, just to repeat what I said earlier, is phenomenal delivery, and in the high 80s for previous years. And we all know that one of the key failures in those councils that have had to issue Section 114 notices has been their lack of ability to deliver on their savings. So I think you can rest assured that what we say we deliver, and I'm sure that the savings included in this MTFS report you've approved tonight will be similarly delivered in a robust and a determined way. So I think that's lots of detail in here. I think I'll leave it there, Chair, and take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor McCabe?
Thank you, Leader. My question is to Councillor Alan Brittis, and it is very simple. How confident is he that we'll reach a positive year-end position, and what actions are being taken to ensure this is achieved?
I'd like to thank my co-councillor colleague, and certainly with reference to adult social care, I want to congratulate him and his director, John Morgan, on currently operating an underspend, and last year was similar, so well done on that. We are confident there are additional mitigating actions we're taking, and I think one of the important areas is a constant review of forecasts. I think that's really important, and that should get us to the position where we want to be.
Thank you, Councillor Alan Brittis. Any further questions or comments? No. Okay, so we'll move to the recommendations. We're being asked to agree recommendations A, B, and C. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, colleagues.